How do you say she in Korean? If we were to give a very lazy answer, we would say 그녀, 그녀. But if you want to say it more naturally, you shouldn't use the word 그녀. But then you might think, but wait, I've seen people using it before in song lyrics, movie and drama subtitles, and even in textbooks, so it must be used quite frequently, right? Actually, that word 그녀, which is supposed to mean she, is only used in written Korean or in language teaching materials that Korean people use for learning other languages, because in those other languages, the word for she is very simple to translate. There can be dozens of different ways to translate she into Korean, depending on the context. So if you're writing a book for Koreans to learn English with, it's probably not very practical to do that with this simple word, she. So in that case, you just use 그녀 to show that the person is female. In addition to that, there's quite a big gap between written Korean and everyday spoken Korean in terms of style, sentence structure, and word choice. Of course, this kind of difference exists in English too, but I think the gap between written and spoken Korean is much wider than in English. How they are different, more specifically, will be the topic for another video. But this partially explains why the audiobook market is not so big in Korea. Podcasts are popular in Korea, radio shows are also still quite popular, but many people still haven't gotten used to the idea of listening to a long book that's written in, well, written Korean. So now, let's talk more about the word she, okay? In English, personal pronouns like I, you, he, she, they, we, and it are usually not omitted. Look at these sentences. Where is Yeji? She was right here 5 minutes ago. Yeah, I saw her too. Do you want me to call her? Those sentences are in English. Here, personal pronouns were used in 6 different places. She, I, her, you, and me. And then again, her. So if you omit any of them, the sentences either sound a bit unnatural or different from the original meanings. Imagine the conversation went like this. Where is Yeji? Was here 5 minutes ago. Yeah, I saw too. Do want to call? And now change this conversation into Korean. 예지 씨 어디 있어요? 5분 전에 여기 있었는데. 네, 저도 봤어요. 전화해 볼까요? The only personal pronoun that wasn't omitted in this translation was 저 in 저도 봤어요, because it's that 저 is absolutely necessary to emphasize the meaning of me too, I saw her too. In other places, you don't need the 5 out of 6 personal pronouns that were used in the original conversation in English. So that's the difference. If you ask me how to say she in Korean, my not so lazy answer would be like this. First of all, it depends on the context. So if you don't have to say it, don't say it. And if you must use a word for she, use her name or social title like 예지 씨 if her name is 예지 and you're allowed to use she after her name, or 엄마 if it's your mother, or 어머님 if it's someone else's mother, or even 선생님 if you're talking to or about a teacher, etc. Let me show you some examples. 제 친구가 한국어 배우고 싶대요. 오늘 아침에 너무 일찍 일어나서 지금 정말 피곤해요. 경은 씨는 배고프면 기분이 안 좋아요. In these sentences, she, as in she wants to, was omitted in Korean. I in I woke up and I in I'm really tired were omitted in Korean. And she in she is hungry was omitted also in Korean. Do you get the picture? Here's one more example. 선생님 사무실로 제가 갈게요. I will go to your office. In this case, your office was translated to 선생님 사무실, and from this you can assume the context and see that the speaker is talking to a person that they address as 선생님. So now let's go back to the topic of how do you say she in Korean and summarize my answer, and this applies to all personal pronouns, of course. First of all, don't say it if you can omit it. Secondly, use the person's name or social title. And thirdly, if you need to give a super simple translation for the purpose of teaching someone the English word she or the French word elle, just use 그녀. Maybe if you want to write some song lyrics in Korean, it's okay to use 그녀. And if you want to translate a sentence that has the word she in the sentence, but you have absolutely no context, then you will be forgiven for using 그녀. You can apply the same rules for 당신, which is one of the words that mean you in Korean. And one more thing, we try to keep everything on Talk to Me in Korean family friendly, but this is important, okay? When you say 그녀 in the wrong way, especially with the topic marker 는, it can actually sound like you're cursing because 년 can be a curse word for a woman. So yeah.
경은 씨는 언제 온대요?
그녀는 3시에 올 거예요.
경은 씨는 언제 온대요?
3시에 올 거예요.
So be very careful if you have to use it, okay? And using the word 그녀 too often in unnecessary places is definitely a common mistake that Korean learners make, and we have an online course where we introduce mistakes Korean learners frequently make and can learn to avoid. The link is down below. Thank you everyone for watching, and for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications. And I will see you at talktomeinkorean.com. 감사합니다.